Joshua left home to adventure in the woodlands surrounding his home but never came back. Was the young boy kidnapped by a rival? Was he having conflicts with his family and wanted to move out? Stay tuned to find out what went wrong with Joshua Maddox, the boy in the chimney. On the 8th of May 2008, Josh leaves his home for a walk in the nearby woodlands. He was fond of hiking and going for adventures. It was not unusual for him to go to the wilderness and spend hours alone. He didn't return this time, but still, his family was not concerned because Joshua had already gone all alone in the woodlands and spent 1 or 2 nights there. After 5 days, when the family didn't get any indication of Joshua, his father reported to the authorities on the 11th of May. A search for Joshua continued for an extended time. The family tried to contact everyone they could present in Joshua's circle. Joshua's sister Kate wrote in an online post that she always thought that her brother had left the town as he may want to start a new life or do things differently in some other place. She further said that she was waiting for him and that someday he would come with his wife and children and the kids would see their aunts and grandparents. She said that considering Joshua's amazing literal background and interest, I hope to see him someday writing novels under a pen name. Joshua Maddox lived in Woodland Park, a town in Colorado with a small population of 8,000 people. Joshua owned a carefree personality. He was well known among his peers. He was a multi-talented guy who used to play guitar and write in his free time. Josh was a Green Panther and loved to take long strolls alone in the outdoors. Josh also performed well in his studies. On the 1st of June 2006, just 1 week before his graduation, his older brother Zachary went into severe depression and took his own life. The incident left the family in a huge shock. And certainly, the death of Josh's brother had affected his mental health, yet the family claimed that he was emotionally stable and happy around the time of his death. In August 2015, Chuck Murphy, owner of an abandoned cabin, decided to demolish it to make space for the construction of the property. The cabin was in disrepair as it was not in use for more than 10 years. While tearing it down, Chuck and the workers made a shocking discovery. They saw a decayed skeleton of a young man in a fetal position and immediately called the police. A big tragedy for the teen's family, as the dental records helped confirm that the remains were of the missing boy, Joshua Maddox. The county coroner also arrived on the scene. The autopsy confirmed that the body was of Joshua. The cabin owned by Chuck Murphy was located on Meadowlark Lane in a vast area of land with tall pines around it. The dwelling was used for the last time by Chuck's brother in 2005. After that, it became a storage space, and Chuck infrequently visited it. A steel webbing was installed many years ago to prevent the entry of animals and raccoons into the cabin. Just 2 blocks from Joshua's home, it had been consistently overlooked in all the investigations. Chuck failed to notice any signs, especially that of a decaying smell. As the cabin was located centrally up to 50 feet from the road with no adjacent homes, police argued that Josh's calls would have remained unanswered. Al Bourne, the Teller County coroner, was the one who claimed that Josh had died accidentally. He conducted Josh's autopsy and found no signs of trauma or broken bones. This claim of the coroner was opposite to what Chuck Murphy believed. Chuck Murphy was in denial because of several doubts related to Joshua's death. He argued that Joshua's case is a murderous one. Tension loomed between the coroner and Chuck Murphy regarding Josh's case. Chuck questioned the claim made by the coroner. The coroner stated that the position of the corpse was due to the voluntary attempt to enter the chimney. However, as Chuck learned of Ari's statement, he immediately referred to the metal grate that he has had fixed in the chimney 20 years back. It was a heavy wire grate, a wire mesh. I installed it across the chimney about 1 row of bricks from the top. We didn't want trouble with raccoons and things getting into the chimney. After Chuck's mention of metal grating, Al Bourne responded that no such proof of wire mesh existed and that it may have had rusted or corroded. Later, Al Bourne claimed that the possible reason for the wire mesh being left unidentified was the removal of all the metalwork from the cabin during the demolition process. He argued, "Nobody saw the metal mesh, we didn't see it in any of our photos. It may have disappeared." Conceding to Murphy, Alborn looked into the case. There were several other confusions in the case which developed with new pieces of information. Many more confusions developed in Murphy's mind, and the coroner's report didn't make sense to him at all. Suspicions grew worse. The tearing of the breakfast bar from the wall and its placement near the fireplace was concerning. Chuck Murphy did not observe anything unusual about the chimney during his occasional visits. The question arises, who and why would somebody tear down the bar and put it just in front of the fireplace? Josh's body position at the time of his death was quite unusual. If we assume that he made his entry into the chimney with heads down and legs above position, it is likely impossible because only two individuals can make it happen. Alborn also assumed that this could have occurred with two individuals putting Josh into the chimney. Another bizarre finding from Josh's death was the absence of his clothes. The doubt intensified as his clothing was found next to the fireplace. Alborn was well aware of this fact and remarked, "This one really taxed our brains. We found his clothing just outside the firebox. He only had on a thermal t-shirt. We don't know why he took his clothes off, took his shoes and socks off, and why he went outside, climbed on the roof and went down the chimney." It was not linear thinking. There were many suspects. One of them was Andy Newman. He had a fine criminal record and was now imprisoned in Texas. A tip-off suggested to the police that Andy and Josh were seen together. Alborn said that people are unable to indicate the times and events associated with Andy being a potential murderer. He further said that we are having trouble generating beneficial information which can take us 7 years back. The coroner doubted that the suspect may have pushed the victim into the chimney alone. In 2015, one of Josh's friends indicated on Reddit that he studied in the same high school as Andy but was never his companion. He added that almost 1 year after his graduation, Josh started to hang out with Andy. After a few days, Josh went missing. Andy had traveled to New Mexico. There, he befriended a caretaker and a disabled man. The caretaker invited Andy home. The guardian goes to take a bath. Andy attacks the disabled person and stabs him to death. The guardian comes back and there is no Andy there. Again, a crime was reported. When Andy was arrested, he told the cops that he had murdered a woman and put his body in a barrel. Even the cops found a female stuffed in a barrel in Taos, but there was already another person declared as the criminal, so Andy's name automatically disappeared from the case. Later, the caretaker died, leaving the investigation without any evidence regarding Andy. Consequently, Andy remained unchecked. Several times before Josh's death, people reported that they listened to Andy bragging about killing Josh and saying, "Put Josh in a hole." Andy was a serial killer. These two were not his only crimes. The autopsy of Joshua revealed no signs of drugs in his system and no broken bones. Neither were there knife marks nor any other murderous marks. It was supposed that death had occurred due to dehydration or hypothermia. At the time of his death, it was -6 degrees Celsius. The coroner declared his death as an accidental one. A theory came out indicating that Josh was trying to burglarize through the chimney and got stuck. However, many circumstances revolving around Josh's death are inconsistent with the accidental death theory. Josh only had a thermal t-shirt on his body at the time of his death. His remaining clothes were found next to the fireplace. So the burglary thing does not fit here. Why would Josh remove his clothes, put them next to the fireplace, go outside, and enter the cabin from above the chimney with his head first, in a fetal position when he was already inside? During the investigation of the case, several theories were suggested. Now we will discuss a few of them. Theory 1, the first theory that was developed in Josh's case indicated that the teenager wanted to end his life because his brother, Zachary, in 2006 committed suicide. So, Josh himself suffered from depression and decided to end his life. While this could be taken as a possibility, his unusual death still does not make sense as suicide. Theory 2, another theory suggests that Joshua was murdered by someone. Someone may have killed him and put his body into the chimney. But here the breakfast bar raises further doubts. The murderer would have put the breakfast bar below the chimney so that he could hide Joshua's body. Except for the bar and the clothes, no proof could signal the presence of someone else in the cabin. Theory 3. The third theory indicated that Joshua might have wanted to burglarize the cabin and got stuck in the process. Perhaps he might have thought that going inside the chimney would be a fun adventure. But there are too many holes. It was suggested that the bar may have been placed earlier by someone who also tried to burglarize the cabin, maybe to block cold air. Another strange thing was his clothing, which was placed neatly folded near the fireplace. Why would Joshua feel the need to remove his clothes, leaving them just near the fireplace, and go outside to enter the chimney? It just does not make sense at all. Theory 4. Lastly, another possible reason could be due to asphyxia if we hypothesize that Josh had died because someone strangled him. The coroner stated that he didn't find any signs of trauma there nor any splatters of blood. But it is highly possible that he could have been killed somewhere else and then hid in the cabin. We can't ignore the fact that when he was discovered, 7 years had passed. The signs of traumatic death may have diminished or completely vanished as only Joshua's skeleton was present. Well, the case had been mysterious as no clear proof could be attained which pointed out that Joshua was murdered intentionally. Also, the theories and assumptions of accidental death are filled with enormous ambiguity to strongly believe that it was an accident. Regarding Andy Newman, we would say that the police should have inquired about him or people associated with him to clear up that he was not involved in Josh's murder. Moreover, further work should have been done to confirm that it was an accident. There can be hundreds of other causes of his death, which we assume that the investigation authorities may have overlooked. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in on Crime and Conspiracy. Please leave your thoughts on Josh's case in the comments below.